Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. Bristol City 0, Leeds United 1. It's the post-match review here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. I'm Stephen Brown and with me is Jason Booker. Jason, this is what tonight means. Leeds United, second place now on 60 points. Yes, two teams below us have got a couple of games in hand, but what a huge win, and 5 back-to-back wins, 2024. First time we've ever done it in our history. We've won five straight league games like that. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was massive on it. We said coming into these two fixtures that for our boys, as well as them of Southampton and Ipswich, that we kind of took advantage of these back-to-back games without them playing, and we had the opportunity to take second spot. I know the game's only ended up being 1-0 tonight, but we've done it at a canter tonight. It was a breeze. It was really, really easy. They ended up having one chance in 90 minutes, which Meslier did well to save. But that side, I mean, you're never going to see a more dominating of a 1-0 win ever. We absolutely dominated the whole game.
Yeah. I mean, if you were watching that back without the kind of anxiety of watching it live, it was a complete and utter breeze. I was anxious that second half, particularly because I just thought that they're going to get something. They're going to get a sniff. They're going to get a chance, a penalty, something daft, just to swing it their way. That big, huge chance that they had, their only chance really. And Mellier's made the save, and it's made the difference. But I mean, like you say, should have been out of sight. I mean, it was just so dominant. Just that final ball, that final decision wasn't quite there, was it?
No, it wasn't. I mean, the clinical side of the edge is something that we've kind of missed on and off throughout the season. And when we found it on the odd game era there, we've absolutely taken teams apart. Ipswich at home, and as a kind of an example. But tonight wasn't the same apprehension created by the Plymouth at home in the Cup or Coventry at home. A few weeks ago, it was different to that. It was because we weren't being clinical, whereas previously it's been because we've switched off, we've sat back, we've got careless, we've been complacent. It weren't that tonight. Bristol City, created a little bit more, maybe around 70, 75 minutes, but that's normal. They're at home. They're gonna start to bring a little bit back the other way, but that wasn't down to us being slack, I didn't think. I thought we were excellent tonight. I think if we'd have just taken a couple more of his chances, we'd be sat here saying that was an incredible performance. There was so much to like about that performance tonight. We were at it from minute one. I thought for the first 20, 25 minutes, if we'd have had Dan James on that right, we'd have seen 2 or 3 goals. We were cutting them open down that right-hand side, and Gnonto grew into the game, and we'll come to him, I'm sure. And I thought second half he was excellent, but first half I thought he really struggled. I did not think he played well at all. No. We really missed Dan James. But once we came out and we got that goal early, there were only one winner. I
mean, thank God we did as well, because we were so dominant that you just thought, it's going to be the longer we don't score, the pressure builds, and before you know it, like I think it was the Stoke away game, you get a kick in the teeth where they get a goal second half, and you've lost the game somehow, you've dropped points, and it was just, thank God we got off to that start in the second half. And like you say, I mean, Willy Gnonto, he's the big change in the lineup. He's come in for Dan James. It's not really worked so far when he's been on that right side. And I agree with you. I thought first half it was difficult for him. You can see that indecision. You could see him second guessing himself, delaying on the ball and not quite making the right decision. But bang, gets that goal, which is a great goal. And suddenly you could see it, the confidence had come back, and it was more like the Willy Gnonto we recognised from last season. And, he worked so hard as well. That's what I love to see as well, the fact that it would have been not easy, but you could have almost expected in his position where he did want to leave the club a few months ago, that the down tools a bit and the effort's not quite there. But that's absolutely not the case with him. Fans are singing his name as he goes off, and hopefully he goes from strength to strength here, because it's only going to benefit us, if he can be a challenge to James, or if he can try and force himself in, or even if it's just coming off the bench or whatever. I do feel like he's a player that needs game time, though. I don't feel like constantly being coming off the bench is going to be his type of thing. It's like, actually, in the first FA Cup round, his second half was a lot better than his first. I think he's one of them. He kind of does grow into games, but yeah, huge night for Willy Gnonto.
It's very clear he's a big part of the group as well. You know, the boys at the end, I don't know if you saw it because I know you dashed off to kind of get ready to come on, but the players were making a big thing about it being Gnonto's moment in front of the crowd, making sure that he got the reception that he probably deserves and the players feel like he deserves. He's only a young lad. That does need to be remembered. And we put a lot of pressure on him last season. There was a lot of expectation almost out of nowhere. And the facts are, since he did what he did earlier on this season, he's got his head back down. Daniel Farke's made his position again, and he's now every time he's come onto the pitch, I think he's given his all. I think he's been struggling for confidence. I think he's a victim of the fact that I think he's playing in the wrong position. I think he's very, very what's the word I'm looking for? He relies on being able to cut inside, and when you try and have him cut inside on his left foot, it always feels like he's then running away from defenders rather than running at them, because he's bringing the ball on his favoured right side inside, and it takes him away from being dangerous. Whereas when he cuts in from the left onto his right foot, he can then drive at players and he commits defenders into making mistakes. So he's having to then learn a different position, because he's obviously can play out on the right as well, but he's definitely not as effective there yet. He's not got the pace that Dan James has got to be able to burst to the byline. And so, but I thought second half he was excellent, and I'm happy for him as well. Like, for me, he's a young lad. He was obviously advised really badly in the summer. Or he made a bad decision. We don't have to let him off the hook completely, but at 20-year-old, we all make really bad decisions. And, he's come back round. It sounds like he's going to sign a new contract now. We've got, a hell of a potential on his hands there. Big value, potential for him down the road if he does end up leaving. And for me, him being successful in our team is good for us on the pitch and off the pitch. So no axe to grind for me. We're Gnonto.
No, indeed. As Arthur and Michael are saying here, thanks for your comments, guys. Everyone else, please do like the video and get your comments in on tonight's match as well. Arthur, Gnonto, hard worker. Pleased for him. Man of the match for me. Michael, pleased for Willy. That goal will be good for his confidence going forward and keeps the naysayers at bay for a period of time.
I'm going to come to my man of the match later. We'll discuss that.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one, actually. Yeah. It'd be very interesting. Someone else here, Arthur Somerville got to score at least one. That was probably the first big moment of the match. Was it's a fantastic steal from some of it. I mean, it feels like basketball at that point where you're going and
stealing the ball. Frightening, isn't it? He's frightening. Electric. I mean, he comes from miles back from the defender, and he nicks it off him. I mean, he gave him 15-yard head start to kind of control the ball and do something with it. And boom, Somerville were there. I mean, he's so quick.
Yeah, and we were doing that all night, weren't we? Stealing the ball. But that particular moment, Somerville gets through when the keeper's miles out, and you're thinking, got to score here. It's got to be a goal. And he goes for the lob, and I'm like pulling my hair out, because how many times have we seen Leeds players try to lob the keeper this year, and it just does not work ever. It's just like you said, though, it's the worst decision he could have made at that point.
It's a sexy finish. It looks nice when it comes off. But the problem is when you're one-on-one with the keeper like that, you are giving him the best chance of being able to recover the situation by playing it straight at him. And obviously the idea of the lob is it goes over the top, but a keeper fully jumping, fully reaching is 8-9 foot. It's physically the easiest then situation for the goalkeeper to bail himself out of that situation. It never made sense to me. Like, some strikers can get away with it and have got the technique to pull it off, but especially when the ball's on the ground, if the ball's bouncing and it's on the half volley, then it makes a bit more sense. But for me, it just didn't make any sense, that kind of finish. You needed to either take it round the goalkeeper or just play it round him. Yeah, just curl it round him. And we try. It's almost like we try and make it harder than it needs to be. Like, we need to make it look better than what we need to do. Is, I think of the Pirro chance earlier on this season away at Hull. Similar, like, just finish the chance, man. Just finish it.
Bang it home, absolutely. Somerville had a bit of one of those nights, didn't he? I mean, he had 2 or 3 chances that he carved out that it just didn't quite happen for him, and because in my mind, Somerville is one of our more clinical players, but I think actually recently he's not quite been up to that clinical edge that he's had previously. But I can't say he played badly or anything because he's such a huge threat.
It's by his standard, isn't it, Brownie?
Yeah.
It's by his standard. Like this year, 2024, if he'd have been as clinical and as on it as he had been in the early December period before the last 2 games of the year, I mean, we'd be winning games 5, 6, 7 every week because he literally was flying early December. And then it just seems this year we're having to rely on others, the welcome return of Pat back to form. I mean, he makes such a difference to this attacking threat and the potency that we're showing. Not scoring chances, but creating real clear ones. He's the big cog in it all. A few weeks ago, we were getting to the end of games and we were like, we've had 1 chance on goal or we've had 1 chance on target. Now we're having, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like real clear chances. And it's because of Pat. It's because of his movement and his hold-up play and his link-up play and what he does. And I mean, it's also to do with the man that then he's kind of replacing the system in Rutter. I mean, he had them on toast tonight, mate. He was absolutely taking the piss. And his ability to be able to carry the ball but also show unbelievable strength is just crazy. His physical kind of stature, he's always first to the ball. It looks like he's going to lose it and he just keeps it again. He's unbelievable. And I mean, for me, I think he's showing us that he can be the 10 that we really, really needed. I was unsure. I said as much, even after the first couple of games, I was unsure whether he would be the man that we could rely on for the rest of the season in that 10 role. But he gives us something I don't think I've seen from many 10s. He's not like a Pablo Hernandez or a Samu Saiz, tricky, intricate kind of number 10. He's not like that, but he offers something so different. I love watching him. What a player.
Yeah. No, spoiler alert, he is my man of the match because I just thought he was phenomenal. I think you're absolutely right in everything you say. I mean, his strength is just... you look at him, you don't think, oh, wow, that's like a big, powerful guy, but he's just so strong and his technique is unreal. His vision, I mean, for me, if he could finish, it'd be the full package, he really would. I think he's absolutely phenomenal.
You see the defenders' confusion when they almost think that they've won the ball and they're going to claim it, and then he's there again. And he just bullies them out of the way. I mean, there were one towards the end of the second half where he just shoulder barges the defender off the ball. I mean, he just makes absolute mincemeat of him. But, I mean, I'm seeing Paul talking about his end product. It doesn't have the end product of an out-and-out finisher, but that's also because he's not an out-and-out 9. Nobody ever said he was an out-and-out 9. Daniel Farke preferred to play in there because he was able to stretch teams better than Pirro was. And I understand that as an idea. But the fact is his finishing... his natural finishing in front of goal isn't there, which is crazy when you think of how good technically he is when he's striking the ball for a pass. Like, it's the same thing, but it's composure. It's the composure he misses, his experience, and hopefully that'll come. We've seen it with players over the years that didn't start as a striker, that started as a winger. Take a Thierry Henry as an example. Thierry Henry started as an out-and-out winger, and I'm not comparing him to Henry, but I'm making the point that, when Henry matured and he grew and he found a composure later on in, a little bit older in his career, he then became one of the best number 9s we've ever seen. He didn't start there. So,
how does Rutter do in the Premier League? What's your honest opinion of how Rutter, what he does, is he going to be able to do that in the Premier League, do you think?
It's a tricky one. I don't know. I still think if we go up this season and he's playing for us next season, I still think that he will end up being a right winger, an inside forward from the right, because I don't think he's got the close control in real tight spots that you really need in the Premier League to get away from better defensive midfielders, better defenders. I don't think he'll be as effective as a 10 then.
No. I'm a little bit concerned for him. And one thing I do want to say, and this kind of leads into my concern, is he works bloody hard as well, does Rutter. the closing down, the pressing, the physicality that he gives. I mean, phenomenal effort that he puts in there. And obviously, we've got this run of games now where it's a lot of games in a short space of time, and we don't have anybody else really like him, and it's going to be difficult to juggle it, isn't it? Because you take Rutter out of that team, and you're losing a bit of that X factor, aren't you? Really.
100%, yeah, 100%. I think you're then left with a make-do of Somerville in there or Gnonto in there. Dan James comes back onto the right, or even worse, in my opinion, at this stage, is Perrault in there, because Perrault offers you so little in the build-up play. I still wish at times he was on the pitch and the man that was then striking that final ball, but for whatever reason in the system, in the tactic, Daniel Farke can't find a way to have him be on the end of chances more often. That's the problem. And I think it's because usually Perrault is most effective when he's in a front two, and we're not playing a front two. So it would be a worry if we lost Rutter, but hopefully we don't have to, deal with that problem. I think a lot of Leeds fans have kind of deal with a bit of PTSD when it comes to this injury situation, because over the years we've had this really small squad where when one injury drops, it ruins his whole team. And don't get me wrong, any team gets affected by an injury to a key player, but you can't just recruit top players based on the fact that there might be an injury, because they also might not be. Yeah, you can't recruit a player as good as Georginio Rutter in the 10 at the championship level and have him sat on the bench until Gio gets an injury.
I think that was the problem with Carvalho, wasn't it? Actually, reading into that, it was basically a discussion was, look, we can't guarantee you the minutes because we're not just going to drop players for you.
Hull are guaranteeing him a play every week. It's for his development. Liverpool want to make sure that he's getting the most by being out on loan. It's their asset as well. They need him having game time, and he wouldn't have come in and started, mate. He wouldn't. No. Like you're not going to drop any of them three. I mean, he might have got in when Dan James got injured over Gnonto. He may have done, but there's a chance that he wouldn't, and he certainly wouldn't have done if Dan James had stayed fit. So it makes it really, really tricky, recruiting anybody. I'd have liked a 10 as well, and I saw, Paul a bit further up was saying that he would. So I would have liked an out-and-out 10 as well, but the same problem then still exists in that you'd struggle to give him game time, because who are you dropping?
Yeah, and do you know what? To be perfectly honest, I think there's a good deal of research into this, in the fact that your January transfer window signings very often flatter to deceive. It doesn't quite work out in the way we want. And we know that firsthand from last January, where we spent a lot of money and it didn't get us anywhere. You look at that team tonight, that is a settled team. That is a really settled team. And you know what? We've brought one player in. We've got rid of a bunch of fringe players. I don't have any problem with those fringe players going, by the way. There's not one of them that I'm thinking, oh no, that really hurts us. And actually we're getting a championship winning fullback in. I don't see a problem with that. You could see how well gelled that team is tonight.
Two sides to the conversation, and let's just talk on the outgoings quickly first. People losing their minds over the likes of Leo Hjelde going out. They need to give their heads a wobble. I mean, in the nicest possible way, Leo was given opportunities at the beginning of the season and failed miserably. He failed miserably. Now, you can say he didn't get a lot of opportunity. Yeah, but that's football. You don't get a lot of opportunity. He failed miserably. Not just like some okay average games. Bad. It was bad performances. People say, oh, he did well at Rotherham last season. He didn't. He played 13. He made 13 starts, and the rest of the time he was on the bench in a Rotherham team. So like we need to stop pretending like it's something that it wasn't. We haven't lost anybody that's been that effective for our first team this season. No. I was sorry to see Luke Ayling go, but it was the right time. He got a great offer, and it was the right move for him. Jed Spence, as much as I would have loved it to work out, it didn't. And everything that's kind of come out of the woodwork since he's gone back has shown that we've made the right decision. Yeah. Ian Poveda, really? Like, we're going to get that upset about it? I would like it to work, but he was such a downgrade on everything else that we've got that it doesn't make sense to keep him around. Yeah. And, for me, I do think there was a point where fans were just like, oh, bring in anybody. Like, anybody had have done. That's not the right mentality when you're trying to properly recruit for this season and getting promoted, but also next season. in potentially being in the Premier League, because if you sign the wrong player on the wrong deal, you're then stuck with them and you limit what you can do next season when you're desperate to stay up. As for Connor Roberts is going to get, I think, for a lot of fans, a bit underwhelming. This is a fantastic signing. It's a fantastic signing. Team of the season in the Championship last season. 4 assists, 6 assists, 4 goals. Played nearly every game, 43 appearances, I think it was. In a title-winning team, he's done 2 promotions with Burnley. You know, not only that, but he's got superb experience in the Championship, having played for Swansea. He's a senior international. For Wales. And I do think that the relationship with the Welsh boys has been underplayed, because I think that's massive, especially on that right side of the pitch. You've got Dan James in front of him, you've got Joe Rodon to the left of him, and you've got Ethan Ampadu in front of him in the midfield if Ampadu plays there. It's a massive signing. There isn't a single team in the Championship that won't want Connor Roberts at right back, with the exception of Southampton, I would say, because they've got Kyle Walker-Peters. I would even say he'd get in a Leicester side because Pereira plays in the midfield. So for me, I think it's a top signing. Shouldn't go under the radar.
No, I completely agree. I'm over this idea of we've got to recruit heavily in January. I just think it's hiding to nothing. I really do.
I will caveat it with just saying quickly, an evening, Kevin. I said it during the game, and I still think this is the case. I wish we'd have signed a left back. I ain't going to be revisionist on it. I said it right at the beginning of the window. We should have had a left back in 3 days into the window. But I understand the position that the club is in. Junior Firpo, you know, the difference between the 1st of January and the 31st of January is that Firpo has shown that for a consistent period of time, he can stay fit. And for a consistent period of time, he can play to a level that we need. And then we have Sam Byram as a backup, or vice versa, whichever way around, right? Defensively, he's still shocking. Defensively, he's still terrible. But most of the time, we spend without the ball, without defending. So I understand, given the wages that Firpo's on and the fact that we probably couldn't move him on, and the things have changed from the 1st of January to now, that he then is made that position his own. And if that's, you know, how Daniel Farke wants to, if that's what he wants to trust at that position, fine. I can back him. I understand it.
Yeah, I do agree with Paul here. Firpo was iffy defensively today. And for me, what was frustrating a little bit with his performance was his passing. The ball was always a little bit too short or a little bit too close to a Bristol player. And, a few times he gave it away in a dangerous position. I've got to admit, I would have loved to have seen a real top quality left back coming in, or certainly someone who could have kind of improved us defensively. I think that would have been the ideal, really, to be honest.
When he gets fatigued, he makes big mistakes because he loses concentration. He's
not played that many games, has he? How many 90 minutes has he completed since he joined? It's not that many, is it?
And defensively, he's terrible. He's not just iffy. And it's not just today. Even in some of the games where he's played well, if you isolate the very, very few times where he's had to defend, he's still terrible. Yeah. Like, go back and watch the games this year from 2024. He's had some good moments. I think the game before the cup game, he was man of the match. I thought he played well defensively as well. He did all right defensively. But ultimately, he is a tragic defender just because his basics are so bad. But we get away with it in this league because he doesn't have to defend that often.
Exactly. Absolutely. Now, let's switch over from Firpo, because someone I definitely want to talk about. Linda, thank you very much for your comment. Archie Gray was brilliant tonight, and I've got to say, he was magnificent, wasn't it? I mean, we're talking about players coming in and not making an impact. These young players that Leeds have kind of offloaded in this January transfer window. There's a lot of young players that are going out. And like you said, if you get that opportunity, you've got to make an impact like that. You don't get many opportunities at this level of football. No. Archie Gray comes in. I mean, I just thought he was absolutely phenomenal. He seems to be growing in that position as well. He's not got the raw pace, but apart from that, he has literally pretty much everything else.
Mate, I thought it was excellent tonight. It was my runner-up for the man of the match, and we'll get to who mine was in a bit. I thought it was excellent. I mean, his reading of the game is just sensational. His composure for 17-year-old is just unreal. He just looks like a seasoned veteran, and he has got better and better and better in that position. He very rarely gets beat one-on-one. He very rarely gives the ball away when carrying the ball. Very rarely gives it away when he makes a pass. If he does make a wayward pass, he tends to always do it with a bit of logic. So he'll do it down the byline and will win a throw-in. He'll make the riskier pass in areas that make more sense. He's very clever, very, very smart. He uses his body extremely well when he's shepherding the ball out or defending the ball to gain that extra yard or two of space. I just think he's just a sensational footballer. And I think when he then drops into midfield, and we only saw it for a few moments tonight, he looks even better than he did at the beginning of the season. And I think that when Connor Roberts comes into this side and he nails down that place, I think it'll be Archie's to lose alongside Gruev. Because I think he's that good. And that's no disrespect to Kamara, because I liked Kamara's performance on the whole tonight. I thought he was pretty good as well. And he's closing down Kamara tonight was excellent. He was everywhere. But Archie's just a bit special, mate. He's just a bit special. I thought it was excellent. I didn't think Kamara was off it at all. I didn't think.
I've got to disagree with that. I thought Kamara was excellent. I thought he was third or fourth best player on the pitch for Leeds. I really did. Just to finish up on the Archie thing as well. This is something we didn't expect from this season. We didn't know this was going to happen with Archie Gray, did we? Obviously, people behind the scenes may have thought, "Oh, he's good enough to actually do this," but it's one of those kind of. Not lucky, because obviously Leeds have had him in the academy and they've got him to this point, but it's one of those things you can't really guarantee or plan for, is it? It's just a happy thing that happens that this kid comes in at 17, by the way. When does he turn 18? He seems to have been 17 forever. Like, when is he actually turning 18? This is like ridiculous.
I don't know.
Come on. How young is this kid? Jesus.
I mean, Clearly, he's been well thought of at first team level for a number of years. I mean, we all talk about the fact he was on the bench 2 years ago for Bielsa at 15. And I don't believe for a second that if Marcelo didn't think that he was potentially ready and good enough then, he'd have even made the bench out there. As desperate as the squad was, he would have still picked another 16-year-old. Or another goalkeeper like we saw the other day with Daniel Farke. He wouldn't have just put him there for no reason. So it's clear that this kid is well thought of by the club and has been well thought of for a long period of time. And I do think that his family and his upbringing and the being around Leeds United his whole life and the academy will make a big difference. It gives him a bit of a leg up. He's not getting in because of that. It gives him a different level of experience that other 17-year-olds just wouldn't have. For me, I've not seen a talent come through like him since Lewis Cook and Fabian Delph. Them two, for me, are the best two that I've seen that I can really remember. Since before the Kewells and the Smiths and
do you think Archie's actually got higher ceiling than them two?
I think people forget just how good Fabian Delph was. I think people forget just how good he was. He was excellent. And before that ACL injury at Villa, his pace was just freakishly good in his ability to carry the ball. And then even then, he still managed to rebuild and went on to win the Premier League and won 20-odd caps for England. We don't know whether he's going to reach that level yet. I think Archie probably will play for England. I do think he will, but it's a long way to go yet. We're not at that stage yet. But his potential's right up there. And Lewis Cook, before he got his bad injury at Bournemouth, he played for England as well and probably would have gone on to play for a top four side, I think. Lewis Cook, you see some of the stuff that he does now that he's back fully playing. He's very, very good as well. So I think he's got the potential to get there. Has he got a higher ceiling? I wouldn't say that at their ages, if you compare the three of them, I would say it's very similar. But if he stays free from injury and carries on progressing in the way that he does and keeps his maturity and his level-headedness, I think that's a big thing that he's got over maybe other young English players, is he's just so mature. He's so mature and so well-grounded, and it'll stand him in good stead for another 2-3 years' time.
Yeah, indeed, and we hope that journey is with Leeds United. Gregory, thanks for your comment, mate. Was calling for Amps to move to centre-back early on in the season. Looks like it's paying off. Yeah, it's a different dimension to that Leeds back line. And since we've hit upon this new starting lineup with Bamford and Ampadu moved back due to Struijk's injury, if Stroik comes back, I'm thinking keep Ampadu in that centre back because I don't want Gruev out of the team.
Browney.
It's it's a
For
nice
me,
dilemma.
I mean, it's a great dilemma to have. I mean, my man of the match tonight was Gruev.
Okay.
I thought it was fantastic, and again, he'll go under the radar because he does so much off the ball work to keep this team ticking. His little touches back into his own half sometimes, which other midfielders would hook away or lose composure of. He's just so clever. And his defensive work is very, very underrated. He's a top player. And for me, I think he does that role in this system better than Ampadu. I can't believe I'm saying I don't think he's as good defensively as Ampadu. I think Ampadu gets into them tackles in midfield better than he does. He's a bit quicker than Gruev. But Gruev is so clever, and his ball playing ability is better than Ampadu's. He's better on the ball.
The tempo's better, isn't it, as well? That rhythm and tempo is just better there, isn't it, when Gruev's in that midfield?
He's got the ability to make that more difficult pass when he's under pressure. So it allows the defender to come, the opposing player to press Gruev, but Gruev to then be able to execute a perfect pass, whereas Ampadu can't do that. He'll play it back to Rodon or he'll play it back to Stroik. Yeah. For me, that side, maybe with the introduction of Connor Roberts at right back, is the team. And Dan James back in for Gnonto as well. I'm not going to change on that just because of one goal. I think Dan James has been sensational this season. Yeah. But for me, I feel more comfortable, especially when we're in possession of the ball, with Ampadu in the backline than I do with Stroik. I think Stroik's better defensively, but given how much of the ball we have again, Ampadu can do enough of what Stroik can do defensively to make it worthwhile as having Ampadu in there for when we've got the ball going the other way. And not that Stroik's bad with the ball, because he's not, but I just think he offers us more because he sees the game from a midfielder's perspective. It suits the back three that we blend into when we go Gruev, Ampadu and Rodon. That looks better than when it's Ampadu, Stroik and Rodon. So for me, I wouldn't be changing it. Would not be changing it.
No. Gail, second place, fabulous. Well, let's get it up again because it's worth looking at. There we go. Leeds United in second place for the first time this season. We've climbed into the automatic places. What are Southampton and Ipswich thinking? I think Ipswich lesser so because I think they've hit the wobble. Obviously, a couple of decent signings in the window may fire them up again. But how does that kind of set the mood among Southampton and Ipswich going into this weekend now that, Leeds, okay, they've gone above us. We've got a couple of games in hand, but it's a lot of games in a short space of time. Will it have some kind of mental impact, do you think, to those two?
I think so. I mean, I think it's very much like a boxer that just can't get rid of their opponent, even though they've hit them with everything that they've got. Southampton have been on an unbelievable run. They're undefeated in 21 games. The game before we lost to them down at St Mary's is the last time they lost, which was back in October, I think it was.
Yeah.
Or September, maybe, something like that. It's a long time. And even still, we've overtaken them. And I know Southampton came from a bit further behind us to then create that second position situation. I do know that, but I still think it's phenomenal, really, that we've been able to kind of close that gap up on Ipswich and on Southampton after the West Brom and Preston situations. We've really built back in. Daniel Farke deserves a lot of credit for that. The boys deserve a lot of credit for that. The lads deserve a lot of credit for that. I think it'll be. I think they'll be professional about it, and I would imagine that they'll go about the business, but it puts a pressure on them that wouldn't have been created had we have not won these games.
Yeah, indeed. As Digler says here, amazing how Farke has transformed everything considering the mess he inherited. And for me, what was impressive really tonight was the off-the-ball work as well. I thought we pressed fantastically well. I mean, it showed, the proof is in the pudding. How many times did we steal the ball from Bristol high up in their end? We just looked so on it from the start. My concern is obviously the build-up of games. Farke doesn't really like to make that sub, does he? He doesn't like to really give people a break, does he? I mean, as Arthur's said here, Bamford looked on his knees at the end and he started to get a little bit sloppy at the end as well.
Because he worked hard tonight.
Worked really hard. And I guess it's difficult to keep that up Saturday, Tuesday, isn't it? I mean, what's going to be the mentality going into these games? Do you expect Farke to actually freshen it up with all these games that are due our way?
I'd be very surprised to see exactly the same team rolled out at Plymouth on Tuesday.
Drop them all. Drop it. Literally. Just
He ain't gonna drop them all. He definitely ain't gonna drop them all. But I would still. The thing is, and we have to remember how much of the game we spend in possession, because I do think it matters. You know, the likes of Rodon and Purdue, as much as we worry about injury, because the more that they play, the more chance there is that they'll get a knock and then they're out for an important game. The facts are is that from a fatigue side, they could probably deal with this situation. Most of them are used to playing championship where it's Saturday, Tuesday. So, you know, from that point, there is a case to say that there isn't any worry. But the facts are is the more games you play, the more opportunity there is for a knock or we saw after only 2 minutes tonight where Cameron Pring went down under Archie Gray. That was a nothing tackle. It wasn't blood and thirster, and he ended up being able to carry on. But if that happens 2 minutes into the game to Joe Rodon on Tuesday, you're then thinking, you know, God's sake, another game that we didn't need, and now he's out for 3-4 championship games. So there is the risk, but I don't want to see us lose any games, you know. So I do understand the idea from Farke to take a team worthy of respect to the competition and being able to win that game. You know,
I did think it were interesting because I thought if we do get through, we're playing a Premier League team, and I'd be interested to see how we do against a Premier League team.
Especially Chelsea away.
Yeah, almost as like not a preview for next season. Obviously, things will be different, but almost like how would we stack up? How, you know, it's a little bit. It's interesting, isn't it? You remember when with Bielsa, we went to Arsenal away and we dominated them for a first half, and it was like a good indicator of we could survive up there if we get up there. It would be interesting from that point of view, wouldn't it? A little test for Farke. You know, can Farke get this going in the Premier League a little bit?
Let's be fair as well. The position that Chelsea are in right now, that's a winnable game. I mean, going to Villa Park's a different kettle of fish, I think. But going to Stamford Bridge, I wouldn't be fearful at all. I'd fancy his chances of winning that game. I really would. I really, really would. I think we could go there and cause an upset. So I think as best we can, we just have to try and enjoy every game as we go. You know, not be so stressed out by it's true. Me and you have had this conversation a lot this season. We've had this conversation on air, off air, and the facts are I go into every game thinking I get to enjoy my team again tonight. I'm not allowing myself yet. It'll come, but I'm not allowing myself yet to get absorbed by this. Oh my God, we need to win this game because if we don't, we're not going to get promoted. I'm just trying to enjoy every game because the last 2 seasons were so horrible that, you know, I didn't enjoy watching my team again every Saturday. And now I am. I'm really enjoying watching my team. So, you know, let's go to Plymouth. I do want to see a few rested. You know, ideally, I think Archie will end up playing because he missed last game, but the likes of Archie Gray would be looking at probably resting. Firpo needs to come out. Byram can have this one. You know, Pat needs to come out. Perot can have this one. Rutter will get wheeled out again because he gets wheeled out every game anyway. But Somerville comes out. Anthony can play. You know, and we need to make sure that we're rotating the squad with still a core that can win the game because I would like to see us win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just from that mentality point of view where you feel like you can't be beaten, you know, and that's a big thing. I mean, you look at Southampton and the run they've been on, they clearly feel that way, you know.
Absolutely.
Robin, into the squad we have, in my opinion, the squad we have now is championship title contenders. 2 months ago, we were 11 behind Ipswich. Leicester wobble, only 9 points behind them. Southampton have got 4 of the top 6 to play, all away. I mean, great points there, Robin. You know, this was said about Farke from the start, you know, the way his teams get going and then the motor and the pickup. And are we at that point now where it's full steam ahead and you know, it's going to continue in this vein, do you think?
I would go as far as saying that I think it's in our hands because his team has the capability to win every single game. Yeah, now, I'm not saying that we're going to win every single game. I'm not going to say that. But we have the capabilities of doing that. So with that in mind, And sure, Southampton will probably say the same, and Leicester will probably say the same. But the facts are, most of the time, there's going to be drop points. So as long as we can just keep on chipping away. Daniel Farke has shown that he can do this before in runs towards the end of the season. The season that we finished third and Norwich won the league, under Bielsa, the first season, Norwich won the last 10. They won 10 on the bounce, 30 straight points. So, and I would say that this team is better. You take out Buendia from that Norwich team, and this team, it craps all over it.
Would you?
No, you wouldn't
swap any of them, would you?
Maybe Max Aarons and Lewis, the two fullbacks, you could argue were top players, but you look at Steepemans and Grant Handley and some of the players that they're. Timu Pukki. I mean, I know he were a goal scorer at this division, but I wouldn't swap a fully fit Pat Bamford for Timu Pukki. Personally, I just wouldn't. No. I was gonna say,
I mean, I don't want to dwell on it or too long, because obviously this is the post-match review for tonight's game. But why didn't it work for Farke in the Premier League? Why wasn't he able to kind of survive at least, or make more of a challenge of it? Because they were really well beaten, weren't they, when they were in the Premier League, Norwich, under Farke? Why couldn't he get something out of them? Was it just purely a massively underfunded squad and it was just a championship team? He wasn't backed properly, but part of me thinks, well, can't you figure something else out to kind of, I don't know.
It's tricky because the team was built to play a Daniel Farke system, but then very similar to what Bielsa experienced in his second season at Leeds, in that it needed development, it needed advancement, and they spent £5 million when they got promoted, Browney. They spent £5 million, so I'm not sure whether Daniel Farke is going to be the answer for us in the Premier League. I don't know that. If I was to be a betting man, I would probably say that he wouldn't, but I would bet that he would do a better fist of it than what he did at Norwich, because he would get proper backing. And when Leeds got promoted under Bielsa, we still went out and signed Rodrigo for 30 million on the first day of the window. We signed Rafinha, one of the best players that we'll ever see in that first transfer window as well. You know what I mean? Like, if he'd have had a Rafinha to rely on, Rafinha absolutely carried us season 2. He kept us up. That one player basically kept us up. So I think it's really harsh to critique Daniel Farke with a Premier League kind of bashing because he didn't keep Norwich up. Nobody keeps Norwich up. Nobody's going to keep this Sheffield United team up. I would compare this Sheffield United team to it. Similar,
Yeah, indeed. We've got some comments coming in from Daniel Farke on Gnonto. He says, we always backed him and trusted him, puts all the credit back on the player for turning it around since the summer issues. He has to keep going. Still no word on Gnonto's new contract being agreed yet. And Farke says he won't discuss it, obviously, going forward. Elsewhere... Sorry, go on, Jess.
I was just going to say on that, sorry to interrupt you. I love Daniel Farke as my management. I know a lot of people have critiqued the Charlie Cresswell situation and some of the other bits, but if you look at the way that he's been able to handle these situations and reintegrate them, and look at how happy the players are, look at how together they all seem, and how much fun they're all having, and he's got a big lack of experience in this squad. Like, take away Liam Cooper, now you've got, and maybe Pat as well, you got no experience. So, Daniel Farke being able to keep that all together and show the discipline that we're showing, the maturity that we're showing, I'm really, really impressed with Daniel Farke. There's some bits that I don't like. We spoke about it with Tom Cardiff yesterday, didn't we? And we said, it's fair to critique Daniel Farke at times for some of the decisions he's made, tactically, substitutions, not rotating, all that. That's all fair, because we've then... He's been proven to be wrong at times, but it's also then shown that he's capable of adapting. The swap to drop Pirro and bring Pat back in, and that were a big turning point. Turning point, and he deserves a lot of credit for that, as he does, this Gnonto situation.
Yeah, absolutely. He also credits Meslier, does Farke, for keeping a clean sheet on a quiet night. Says Ilan was crucial today in one moment, a top save. This is a top-class goalkeeper. It was a world-class save. I don't know about world-class, but he's boosting him up, because for me, Melier's looked like his confidence has dropped since he came back from the suspension. Certainly, I feel like he looks a bit nervy, when you see him at set pieces, and sometimes the facial expressions and the way he's interacting with his teammates sometimes feels a little bit nervy, a bit fractured a little bit.
It was a good save, though. It was a good save.
How many times have we said that, though, when that moment happens and we've conceded? And he saved that tonight. I agree.
That
could have been the turning point because we weren't clinical tonight.
I said to you last week after the Plymouth, I just wish that he would just save one every now and again to stop us conceding, because it just feels like every shot that he faces goes in. And tonight he did. He did. It was very similar to the Plymouth chance. It was very similar to that chance. So, yeah, he did. And, I thought he was okay tonight. He had a couple where he was put under pressure. He punched them well. I thought his distribution was pretty good, actually. I thought it was pretty good. I thought a lot of it, when it went long, was done with proper intent, and it got us up the pitch, and we then were able to play from them different areas of the pitch. I thought it was all right tonight, Elliot, to be honest.
Yeah, by the way, we've not talked about this, actually, the penalty on Rutter. I'm guessing most of us here, or probably everyone actually, was watching it on the TV, and co-commentator Andy Hinchcliffe, he was, no, it wasn't a penalty. I just can't. Yeah, exactly. I just could not. How can you not give that penalty? I know about the referee's position. Obviously, it's difficult, but I don't know.
He had a stinker tonight, mate. I get sick of talking about these EFL referees. They're just so bad. There was one where Gruev got fouled, and Gruev then got fouled into one of their other players, and they ended up taking each other out. And the referee almost it was like he felt sorry for Bristol City's two players that collided, so he gave a free kick to them. And I'm like, oh, what? Some of them were really, really bad.
Exactly. Yeah, like John says here, Andy Hinchcliffe was talking rubbish. He absolutely was.
He's just so biased. So biased.
I know. It's just shocking, isn't it? I to be honest, I thought one of the ways they were going to get back into the game tonight was going to be a penalty or something daft from the referee, giving them a soft penalty. You could have seen it, couldn't you? Do you know what I mean? You could absolutely have seen it. Yeah, absolutely shocking.
I thought the punch by the keeper was a bit like I mentioned to you when we were talking. If that were two players that had gone up for a header and a player had gone in with that force, they, even though they'd won the header, they'd have been given a foul against them because it'd have been seen as reckless. But because it's the keeper, it's not a foul. It's just bizarre.
I know, when you watch it, it's like that anywhere else, any other player that ain't the goalkeeper, it's absolutely a foul. Farke is also saying of Connor Roberts, he says he makes the group stronger with his age, experience, winning mentality. Delight to have a specialist right back in. The only criticism he's got tonight is the lack of efficiency in front of goal, but 5 league wins on the spin and a clean sheet is impressive. Delighted for Gnonto again. On the Welsh kind of aspect of it with Leeds at the moment, it says, I don't believe in passports. I believe in characters. There you go.
I've got to say, I was really impressed with Connor Roberts' interview. Really, really impressed.
Buzzing, he looks absolutely buzzing to be here.
Buzzing to be, said all the right things, but with genuine meaning and intent. Seemed really passionate and enthusiastic. I just think he's a top signing. Top signing. I really hope it goes well for him and he's got a bullet long throw as well. So we might need that at some point.
Well, this is it. Also, he's like we mentioned last night on the show, it's not an obligation to buy either. And he's coming in and he sounds like he wants to have a future here. And it's not even an obligation to buy. Hopefully he can impress and maybe something happens in the summer. I don't know.
He's playing for a deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's playing for a deal whether it's here or whether it's somewhere else, because Burnley clearly don't want him. They've already replaced him. So he's got a lot to prove over this next 6 months. He'll want to be playing in the Premier League. And if Leeds get promoted and he smashes it over this next 6 months, then great, we'll probably sign him. He's got a lot of experience. It'd be a good signing, really, for a couple of years to have in and around the squad. I do think this Welsh connection's underrated. Him and Ampadu have played over 100 times together for Wales. Him and Rodon played together for, I think it was 2 seasons at Swansea. They know each other. Dan James included, I think, have played 130 something games together for Wales. Like it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's that connection, because I'm not bothered about passports either. But when you look at last season, we had kind of an influx of American players. We had an influx of, some German players as well, played in the Austrian league, whatever. and it didn't really work for us. It didn't work. And this year, the Welsh boys have come in and they've all been, smashing success. Obviously, Dan James was here before. So bring it on. Let's fill the team up. Let's sign some more Welsh lads.
It's not about where they come from, Browney.
No,
it's about where their
it's
experience is. And they all know the English game, especially the Championship. Whereas the big difficulty with stepping up from the Austrian Bundesliga is it's just nothing like it.
No.
The physical demands are not comparable to the Premier League. They're probably not even comparable to the Championship. Yeah. So it was just terrible recruitment.
Yeah, it really was. Wasn't it? Yeah. Thank God those days are behind us, though. Tomorrow sees Southampton visit Rotherham. Rotherham, bottom of the league. Can we expect any banana skins there, Jason? Is it asking too much? I mean, it would be nice to see a proper Southampton wobble, wouldn't it, at this stage? I think it'd be absolutely perfect, really.
It's the Championship, mate. Oh, it can happen. Yeah. We went to Rotherham and slipped up, didn't we? We didn't take 3 points.
Yeah, we did.
Anybody can beat anybody on the night in this division. I would fancy Southampton to probably go there and win. I'm not going to be, devastated if they don't, but there'll be slip-ups. There's going to be slip-ups. And, now we're in the position. They wake up tomorrow thinking we got to take all 3. Pressure's on us. And Rotherham are going to be fighting for their lives. So, look, we can only hope. But there's going to be harder days to come. We just got to make sure that we just keep on doing what we need to do. Because the problem has come before in that we've not. The game away at Preston, maybe not even so much the game away at West Brom, but the game away at Preston, they were terrible. They were dreadful. They were dreadful then not so long after at our place. We should have won that day. And if we'd have won that day, we'd have been going into today's game thinking we're 4 points clear. Yeah, so the situation's different. So we just got to look after ourselves and deal with what we can deal with. And hope, let them take care of their own business because they're not going to win every game.
No, it's not going to happen, is it? A little bit tougher for Ipswich on that front, though. They got Preston tomorrow away as well. And then, obviously, Southampton, they've got a cup game like us as well on the Tuesday. So, it's extra fatigue in their legs as well. Getting back to tonight's game, then, Jason, overall, exactly what we wanted. We're back. Well, not back. We're in second place for the first time this season. We don't look out of place there, though, do we? Look at the quality that we showed tonight and how dominant we were. And if we were a little bit more clinical, it could have been 5 or 6 tonight. I mean, it's like you say, it could be in our hands.
It's no disrespect to Ipswich, but the 3 relegated teams are just head and shoulders above everyone else. They are miles ahead of everyone else. And the only thing that really is undoing us right now is that clinical edge and just not just completely killing games off. I've watched Leicester quite a few times this season and they don't play well. No. They win games. They do. They get through and win their games. But if you have a look at the end of the game the other night, they won 2-0 and the fans were... And they're not happy.
No, they're not.
Maresca's come out and said a couple of times, like, if I'm not appreciated for what I'm doing, I'm off. As many words, yeah.
The deal fell through for that player, as Sensei did as well, didn't it? That fell through.
They've not signed anybody in the window, So I would argue that we're peaking at the right time, and I wouldn't even say we're right at the crescendo of the peak yet either. Southampton have been on this run a long time now, and they've just got so much talent within that team, but they lost their best player this window. Yeah, let's not forget that. It kind of goes under the radar. We didn't lose anyone. We didn't lose anyone that we didn't, that we really, really wanted. We didn't lose Somerville. We didn't lose Gio. We didn't lose, Dan James or Joe Rodon or whoever. Like, we've kept all of our best ones. Southampton lost Alcaraz, who has been cutting teams open all season. So I think it's in our hands, mate. I really do. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we can, out of the, what we've got left, 16 games?
Yeah.
We're well capable of winning 13, 14 of them. Well capable.
Yeah, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? Just looking ahead then, past the Plymouth game in the Cup on Tuesday, it's our turn to do Rotherham over. Rotherham at home, hopefully make up for that draw away from there. After that, it's Swansea on the Tuesday, and then we've got Plymouth again the Saturday after that, before that huge game against Leicester on the 23rd of February. Nice little pocket of games. I mean, if we get maximum points there, I mean, it's like you said, though, we can go into every game thinking we can win this. There's no reason why not, isn't there? I guess it's just going to be that rotation aspect, really.
I think Rotherham's a key game at home. Like, we go into every game expecting to win, especially as home games. But I think how we set about that game could be massive. I think killing them off early, 2 or 3 goals up, so 30, 40 minutes in, and trying to get through that game with some professional management. Rotherham could come and kick us all over the place before us then having to go down to Swansea on the Tuesday. I think it's really important that we put them to the sword and kind of put them in the box so that they think we just can't wait to be off this pitch. Let's just get off this pitch with, without conceding 4, 5, 6 goals. And then that week that we play Swansea, and have we got Leicester on the Friday? Or is that
I believe so, I think
so is it Swansea and then Leicester?
Basically, Leicester's the
Friday 23rd.
I think that's important. I think it's really, really important that we make sure that we're. Do Leicester play on the Tuesday as well? Is it a full calendar of games on the Tuesday? When we play Swansea?
Let's have a look. Leicester. So Leicester so Leicester Stoke tomorrow, Watford Saturday, then they've got Sheffield Wednesday on the Tuesday, Middlesbrough on the 17th, and then us.
So there is a game in between us and Leicester then. Who do we play on that Saturday?
So we play. Let me get it back.
I'm just firing those questions.
Let's have a look. So just before the Leicester, we've got Plymouth on the 17th. And
Plymouth away on the Saturday. That's it. Yeah. So we play Swansea on the Tuesday away, Plymouth away on the Saturday. And Leicester on the Friday.
Yeah. So
you know what? Leicester at home, probably I'd take a point. I'd probably take a point, but that's a bit of a distance away. These games that we've got coming up, the 2 away games, especially Swansea and Plymouth, will be where the biggest risk of us dropping points are that we shouldn't drop. So going to them games and winning and taking the 3 will be massive.
Oh yeah,
one game at a time.
Well, one game at a time, indeed. Just get your take on this as well, Jason. This kind of, we were live right through till I don't know midnight or something last night on the transfer deadline day show, but this happened. I don't think we saw it on air, did we? I don't think we.
It was late.
Well, it was late, very late, wasn't it? But McGurk's left, gone to Swindon. You were a bit surprised by this, weren't you? I mean, obviously we've let a few of the youngsters go, but he was obviously someone who's shown something, in the youth ranks there. But were you a bit surprised? What's your take on it? Is that probably going to be his level, or?
No, I don't think it will. I think it's a great signing for Swindon. They've got some potential in a player there on a permanent deal as well. But you never know quite how a player is going to take to senior men's football. When he then goes into the first team, it could be a difficult adaptation, but everything that he's shown at 21's level has been good. He's tricky. I think he's a really, really good player. A bit disappointed to not see him go out on loan, but at the same time, I wouldn't. And I don't understand, and I've said this before on this show time and time again, the fans' attitude towards a player that they've never even seen play blows my mind, and they'll see a couple of clips on Twitter or a couple of tweets from somebody that knows somebody that says he's good or whatever. And we just need to calm down. I've seen Sean McGurk play, but I do understand that the difference between 21s and first team football is massive. What I think it does say, it's a bit of a damning indictment on some of these youngsters that we did bring in, expecting a pathway towards a first team. But I will also say that there has been some decent success too. I know it didn't work out for Cody Drame, but he's a championship level player. We've got Joe Gellar, who we brought in, who's still with the club, is a championship player. Sam Greenwood is the same. And that isn't a bad success rate. The facts are is Chris Somerville, Pascal Stroik, Ilan Meslier was all signed as young players. That Meslier, when he came in, was our backup and probably would have played 21's football if it wasn't for the clown that was Kiko. So there has been a lot of success too, and I think some fans expect all of them to be a success, or even 75%, or even 50% Brownie, and it's just not realistic. So many of them are not going to be good enough at that age because you're signing potential, and then you're hoping it grows into first team level football, but most of them don't. So the fact that we've still even got 2, 3, 4 that are in and around the squad is pretty impressive, really.
Well, this is it, because I mean, it's obviously this was notable from the transfer window that, these youngsters were going. And, you do wonder, new ownership have come in, new eyes on these players and deeming them, surplus to requirements, really. And it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward with recruitment on the youth side.
We spoke about it on the show yesterday, and there's a big difference between technical ability and tactical ability. And the ability to be able to follow a game plan, a tactic, and instruction, and be in the right place at the right time isn't something that an ordinary, and I use that term loose, fan would see. They just see what the player does when he gets on the ball, his ability to be able to pick a pass or dive in for a tackle or whatever. Like, take a Lewis Bate as an example, and I really like Lewis Bate. I think he'll come back through and he'll end up being a good player. Technically, I think he's superb, but clearly the management and all of League One managers, because he didn't go to League One, he's gone to League Two, have said he can't play in my team for whatever reason. So when these players are dropping down to these levels, it's usually because tactically they won't be able to fit into the system. And fit into a Championship or Premier League team. So you have to respect the people that are seeing these players every day making the decisions. We've seen this so many times. I remember so many fans calling for Ryan Edmondson to come in over Patrick Bamford. Like, the guy's just gone off to South Coast Mariners in Australia. He's been playing League Two football for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
They did the same with Noah Kenner. They did, or give McKinstry a go. Like, he's on the bench. It's wild. It's absolutely wild, some of the takes. But it'll always be the same. It'll always be the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Big hello to Clive here. Hello from Los Angeles. 3 p.m. All Leeds are we indeed, mate. That's not bad to set you up there, is it? A 1-0 victory. Good stuff. There we go, mate. So a 1-0 victory against Bristol leaves us in second place. Positive vibes. It's been a good
enjoy the weekend, can't we?
You can enjoy the weekend. It's been a pretty decent 2024 so far on the pitch, hasn't it, Jess?
Absolutely, mate. I'm buzzing. I'm buoyed by the way things are going. I would almost say I'm more relaxed. Well, I'm definitely more relaxed than under the Bielsa second season. I am. Yeah. I think it was so stressful trying to kind of achieve that euphoric moment that this kind of, I said it to you earlier on, I'm just trying to enjoy it. And I think there's a lot to enjoy. I think it's really starting to click and gel. There's a lot to like. And I mean, being able to enjoy watching the likes of James, Rutter, Somerville, Archie come through and really, play his socks off. I love watching Joe Rodon on the weekly. What a player. Yeah. What a player he is. I mean, he's a Premier League centre-back. I have no idea what he's doing in the Championship, if I'm honest. You talk about some of the recruitment, and again, fans have absolutely lost their head during January. Absolutely lost their head. I mean, some of the takes that I've seen some fans say that the ownership's as bad as Rajazani. I've seen some say it's as bad as Bates. Like, what are you talking about? And I mean, this recruitment model that we've come with, I mean, some of the players that we've got in this squad it's beyond belief, really. Yeah. And the fact that we went through the whole of January with basically not even a peep of somebody leaving. The only kind of noise that we heard were Gnonto, a bit of a whisper. Yeah. But I mean, even that, I could have accepted it and I'd have been all right with it, especially if we'd have replaced him with Emmanuel Benson. But all of us big players, there weren't a peep of them leaving.
Nothing.
And that's down to the ownership.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, if you're a Premier League team, say you're a Crystal Palace, you're telling me they're not looking at someone like Somerville going, oh, we can take that. We can go and have a nibble. But I'm sure that door would have been closed shut.
100%.
Not happening.
There was some serious money being demanded for any of them. Because everybody has a price. Everybody has a price. And Crystal Palace, a good example. They'd have come to Leeds with, what about 25 million for Somerville? Nah, 45 million, 50 million. That's the response that they've got. Oh, no, it's not worth it. Well, you're not buying him then. And that's it. Yeah. So this ownership is miles away from Rajazani. We wouldn't have had any of them. We'd have been fighting away with a basic Championship squad this season if it had been Rajazani, let me tell you.
Exactly. And you mentioned about Farke's man management as well. I think because of the way he handled Gnonto, if you're a Somerville, if you're even maybe a Rutter or anyone else, you're looking at it going, hey, guy's not going to mess about. I'm not going to play football. Do I want to sit there and play no football whilst I'm trying to argy-bargy for a move.
Yeah.
I think it was different with Sinistericus, this loan thing that they had in the contract. I think that we had less kind of control of that situation. His age as well, but certainly those young hot prospects that we've got at the club, we've got a firm grip on them, it feels, and it is wild to see some of the takes. So it's it almost felt like people were like, we've just got to go mental because we're not signing anyone rather than looking at the bigger picture. It's also interesting what you said about the Bielsa season, because that Bielsa second season, it was stressful. The football was obviously glorious, and you look back going, I kind of wish I would have allowed myself to just relax and enjoy it a bit more. And it's trying to remember that message this season when it is so good, when it is, when the football and the players that we're seeing is fantastic. So I'm not as wound up as I was in the Bielsa second season. I think my attitude this season is I just want to get back to the Premier League. I don't want to be in the Championship. I'm sick to death of the Championship. I've seen enough Championship football with Leeds United in it for a lifetime. I want us back with the big boys. I want us, I want us to do what Villa have done. I want us to be up there, challenging and getting into Europe and all this nonsense. I'm sick of the Championship. I'm done with it. And it's that pressure that's been driving. Like, I just want us to get promoted. Come on.
It's the fear in it. It's the fear of this team being ripped apart. I think that's a big part of what worries us about not going up this season. Because, I want to be in the Premier League as well, but we can all say that it's not the promised land that we remember it to be. Some of it's pretty miserable. Some of the games are pretty miserable. Some, the way that you have to kind of survive as a bottom half team and whatnot, it's not as exciting as trying to win the Championship in many ways. I'd still prefer to be there, but it's, do you know what I mean? It's still not as exciting. So, but I think what really worries us is the thoughts of Rutter going, Somerville going, Rodon going back, Ampadu leaving, Archie Gray being stripped away from us. That's what certainly worries me about not going up this year. But let's just enjoy it. Let's just enjoy it. We've lost 6 games in 30. We've lost 6 games in 30. Come on.
I know we lost probably, 25 games in 30 last season. Something stupid. We were absolutely awful.
I saw a fan the other day arguing on Twitter about these teams deserving points deductions, and one of them were talking about whether Forest had got this points deduction that they supposedly would get last season if they got deducted 5 points. We'd have stayed up, and I was like, no, we wouldn't. We were 6 points behind them or something like that. And it was hilarious because it's like we finished miles off the pace, really. We were
so bad.
We ended up finishing second bottom too. So
yeah, we would. Yeah, exactly. It just makes a joke of us trying to like sue Everton or something. It's like, it don't matter. We still were second bottom. This is absolutely true, Colin. Blame Google, because I got this from the Google League table straight after the game. Google must be haters. I don't know what's going on. They're denying us those 5 wins and need to get that updated ASAP. But yeah, some great stuff. Also, just a word here from Johnny as well, saying Farke hugged Gnonto when he came off, which is nice to see. There's no bad blood between them, and that is good to see, isn't it? That's proper man management, isn't it?
Management again, yeah, 100%, mate. 100%.
Not personal with Farke, is it? It's like, okay, you want to leave, we're not letting you leave. You can, just sit in a hotel room for the next few weeks and train on your own. And then when you come back, fine. If you put it to bed, love it.
They mentioned it in commentary about him saying that he demanded that he was known as the manager rather than the head coach. Yeah. And I think it's a great point. And, very similar to Bielsa, he has control of what happens with his team. And he does. And I have to say, I think his man management has been perfect. Tactically, I've got some gripes, but ultimately he's the second best manager in the league. If you're looking at the league table right now, I would argue that he had more to deal with than Southampton and Leicester in the summer, even though that they had their own, problems. He still had more to deal with than them. And I think he's dealt with it brilliantly. And most of the time, or a lot of the time, he's got us playing great football.
Yeah. Do you think actually tactically though, that's improving a little bit in terms of how it's looking and how it's kind of gelling together now?
And some of that will be the team gelling and getting used to it week on week with practice and training and more games and more cohesiveness between each other. I remember that this team were put together in the summer as well, basically. And some of that is Daniel Farke adapting. because, you know, we come back to the Pirro and the Bamford change. It was massive. I mean, what it means for Pirro long term, I'm not sure, but he was still part of it tonight. He was still celebrating at the end, even though he'd only played 90 seconds. As long as his attitude's good, I'm not bothered. I think, you know, we spoke about it the other week on the debate. Like, I think he'll have a real problem stepping up to the Premier League. I do, in a Daniel Farke system, because it's just not suited for him, and he's definitely not a 10.
No.
But yeah, he definitely deserves a lot of credit for it, mate. A lot of credit.
Yeah, indeed. Just stepping away from football, because I know you're a big boxing fan, Jason. Tyson Fury fight is, I think it's postponed, isn't it? Because the cut he's got in sparring. I did see your tweet earlier, though. No surprises from your end. You don't think it's going to happen, do you?
I said when the fight was announced, this fight won't happen. I called it the next day, or on the day it got announced. It won't happen. I says Fury will pull out. There'll be some reason why he can't fight. And, I think we're about 2 weeks away from the fight now. Or with the supposed date, I think it was 17th of February, something like that. It was due in a couple of weeks. So usually by this point, you start to think something serious is going to have to happen. Most professional boxers stop sparring 2 weeks before the fight, full sparring, because of the risk of injuries. And not only that, if he's now had a severe injury in sparring, how severe is it? Like, at no point should you be sparring without headgear. Like, how severe can the injury be? Unless it's a hand injury or something like that. I'm not buying it. I've been hearing a few things. I watch a lot of content when it comes to boxing. Hearing that he's been getting bashed about in sparring, he's been getting knocked down in sparring. Like, he's been getting hurt. I'm telling you, that fight was never gonna happen. And they're saying it's been postponed. It will not happen. Tyson Fury does not put himself in uneducated danger. And Alexander Usyk is just too much for him. He's too good for him. Fury has lived on a myth. And we saw it the other week when Deontay Wilder went and lost to Joseph Parker. Parker's a bog standard heavyweight. He's come back. He's had a bit of a resurgence at this time in his career. But he's not a world level fighter, really. And he schooled Deontay Wilder, schooled him. And that's what Tyson Fury lives on, is beating Deontay Wilder. So I'm telling you, he's a myth.
The thing with Usyk, though, is that he's so much bigger than Usyk. It's like, surely wouldn't that have been enough of an advantage? I mean, is he that? I mean, obviously Usyk's unbelievable, but like, just that difference in size alone, wouldn't that be enough to kind of even it up? You would have thought.
They say that a good big and all beat a great little, and don't they? That's kind of the saying in boxing. So I get that, and I'm not saying that Tyson Fury couldn't win that fight. I'm not saying that, because he's got all the natural advantages to beat him, but technically the absolute leagues apart for me. I mean, Tyson Fury getting in and looking the way that he did against Ngannou only further kind of proved what I thought. I just don't see him taking it, because I don't think Fury could live with the aftermath of having to suck up being second best on the night. And I truly believe that's why we've never seen him fight AJ. And a lot of people hate AJ. I've not got any particular allegiances in boxing. I just love boxing. So I'm not a fan of ex-fighter per se, not since Ricky Hatton, really. He cruises past Fury. I've always said it, and I know Fury will, dance through fights and he'll look great to the casual boxing fan. For me, AJ, he knocks him out. He knocks him out.
Yeah. Well, there we go. That's Jason's boxing take. You're gonna have to start a boxing channel or something, mate, aren't you? Get these hot takes out there. I like this from Robin. Very, very positive here. In my opinion, the Leeds renaissance has just started. Revie era awesome, Wilco era awesome. Both will pale into mediocrity compared to where we're going. Just wish we could all believe in the new Leeds. Well, I do think it's an exciting future for Leeds. I think under the 49ers, I think we've got, it's not just, a business that have bought Leeds. It's not just, investors here, there and everywhere. It's a sporting enterprise that is invested. I know the actual investors have a wide background, but that 49ers link, there's that knowledge there, from development, commercially, data analytics. You can bet any money that all that stuff is going to be massively upgraded for Leeds over the next few years.
The 49ers know they've got an absolute rough diamond in their hands. And when it comes to a commercial potential, I mean, we're already massive around the world anyway, and we've grown in America over the last few years exponentially. And so what they can do with us worldwide would be massive, but they need us in the Premier League to be able to do that. Their investment, the second that we get promoted, their investment 10 times, it flies. So I think there's huge potential for us. I think we have to remember that football's different to the different eras that have come before, and unfortunately it's wrapped in money. But because we're a one club city and we are a massive city, we actually do have the potential to kind of break through that wall, as have Villa, as have Newcastle. You know, we do have that potential, but we have to be in the Premier League to be able to do that. So yeah, we'll see.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Okay, well, we've done a good amount of time there, I think.
Bye, mate.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed, it does, doesn't it? I want to thank everyone for the comments this evening as well. It's been great to have you all involved. If you've not already, if you can like the video, if you're watching this again later, leave us a comment as well. Really interesting to know what you thought of tonight's game and what Leeds are going to do this season. Myself and Jason will be back Monday for the West Yorkshire Roundup show as well, where we'll be chatting with our other contributors on the channel to see how our teams in West Yorkshire have got on. So please do come back for that. But it's good news for Leeds. Just enjoy that graphic there. Leeds United in second place. Will they be able to stay there? We hope so, and we'll see what happens. I've been Stephen Brown. With me has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll catch you again soon. Thanks for watching.